Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast, Fresh Prince of Tasmania. We've got Joel Rapaport from Big Village Records.
Yeah.
And we've got Prema Smith, the main host. Basically, I met Joel when I first moved over to Sydney. The first thing that I typed in into Google was Sydney hip hop, and Big Village came up with a few contact details, and I gave him an email. And he invited me around to the office, and we discussed music videos, and now, good friends.
Yep.
Done a few projects for Big Village, for various artists. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I forgot about how we met. That's mad.
Yeah, it's good search engine optimization, by the way. To type in Sydney hip hop, and Big Village comes up straight away as number one.
Tell us about when you first started rapping, Joe.
Yeah, so
What inspired you to get into rapping?
Yeah, so I guess, primarily, I think of myself, what the main thing that I do in my life and that I love doing, even though it's not the thing doesn't take the most hours of my day at the moment, but I still feel like my energy and the thing that I love more than anything is rapping and writing music and performing music. So in terms of rapping, I guess I started rapping in year 10, year 11 with a few, the same kind of way that a lot of people do. It was at a house party, people were just rapping. There's a cypher in the backyard and everyone's kind of loose and just
You used to do battle rapping, right?
Yeah, well that was ages later, but that was I'm just saying the first time I ever even tried to rap. But
So
fast forward, because that could take a long time. But basically I started rapping with there was a DJ who was a friend of mine. He kind of inspired me to rap, and his dad was a musician, and he kind of fed me a whole kind of swag of all these really great hip hop artists and
Who were some of these hip hop artists that you
Well, I was listening to Beasties, Wu-Tang, Tribe Called Quest, The Roots, Public Enemy. That was kind of the stuff that I was kind of listening to just as a fan. But then this guy kind of put me into Company Flow, Sage Francis, and then all the Sound Bombing kind of crew, and just Mos Def and Talib Kweli, a lot of the other stuff, the more intricate stuff. And there was all these other things he gave me that I didn't even know who they were until years later. And I was like, oh my God, I was listening to this guy in high school, but I didn't even know the guy's name. I just knew that, I knew that song, early Sage Francis, on his first, in his first crew, but yeah, it was just some awesome kind of people that kind of you meet along the way. But yeah, I guess I just kind of, with your high school, everyone kind of raps, and it's just the people that are still become rappers or whatever are just the guys that didn't stop. You know what I mean? Pretty much everyone I know who's a rapper was probably one of 5 other friends that rapped, but they're the only ones that kind of kept doing it. Everyone else, one by one, they kind of drop off, and you were the one that was no, come on, let's rehearse, let's really heaps into it. So
what gave you that drive? Because that drive is something very interesting. What made you you know what?
It's just that feeling that you get, I guess, and ambition, and actually, I guess there's a sense of self-belief, there were people that are rapping in high school, and they probably we'll never fucking be good, we can't get to be whereas for me, I always just was well, I don't know if I can, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do everything I can to get to being the best person in terms of whatever I do. I try and do it well. So with whether I achieve that or not, but I don't know, but I definitely I hate doing things badly. So it's if I'm gonna do anything. So with rapping, it was more it just kind of, as soon as I was doing it, I'd played guitar for a few years, and I still I've played guitar since I was 12, but with rapping it felt there was something kind of effortless to it, when I was writing, and the feeling. Rapping's this whole combination of poetry and music and performance and comedy and all, you know what I mean? There's all these combined kind of
theatrical
this
aspects to it too,
this combines so many different like aspects of like of kind of entertainment and being creative. So it kind of pulled in a lot of stuff, but I always just felt really comfortable doing it from the very start, you know. And so I guess like the first thing was just like freestyling. I used to kind of freestyle a lot with my friends, and you know, had a little band, like a live band, used to rap to, and then, you know, over a few years, like, you know, then kind of got into battling, and yeah, so.
So you're actually, like, the co-owner of Big Village is Smurf.
Yes.
Right? How did you actually get involved with him?
Well, that's a funny story. Well, basically I was dating his sister. So she was like my first girlfriend when I was at the ripe age of 19, and so we hooked up, and like you know, because I was rapping, like I'd been rapping from like 16 to 19 or 20, and like I was pretty like I'd done some open mics, you know, I'd done some like got up freestyle, I was like already starting a battle, so I was pretty cocky, you know, in terms of who I was. And then like she's like, you know, yeah, my little brother's a rapper, and I'm like,
FYI to the audience, she's called Billy Rose.
Billy Rose.
She's a rapper as well.
Yeah, she's a rapper and a singer. But she was like, yeah, my little brother's a rapper, and I was like, yeah, sure. You know, like kind of like, what's this like? And I was even like, I kind of sometimes have like a mathematical like view on like weird parts of life as well. So I remember like me thinking like when he was rapping, I remember me thinking in my head like there's just mathematically there's very little chance that like me and him that have this connection will both get good and do it. I was just like thinking like, no, maths is telling me that like we can't both get good at this. It's just like a weird way to think, you know, but I think about shit weird. But I remember like thinking like, you know, this will be interesting, like, you know. But then I remember seeing like when I saw his first gig, and I was like, this guy's pretty good. This like my like brother and, you know, like my girlfriend's younger brother's pretty damn good, you know. So yeah, we ended up.
He's a little bit younger than you. Obviously.
4 years younger. 4 years, yeah. So, but 4 years is a lot when you're 20.
Yeah.
But he's a very different personality as well. He's like a lot like a bigger kind of personality in some ways, whereas I'm more like the thinker and like more of like a kind of, you know, strategist.
Do you find that he was looking up to you at the time when you?
I don't know. You probably have to ask him that. But yeah, I guess, I mean, we had like, yeah, it felt like, you know, I spent a lot of time there. You know, it was a 6-year relationship, you know, and so we got quite close, and I definitely felt like part of the family. And over that time, like, you know, when I was with Billy, like we started working together musically as well with Billy and with Larry Lorenz. And so like on my first out, he kind of came into the studio with my band, and then he kind of started rapping with that band, and then he ended up, you know, we did a lot of songs on my first album. He did like 2 or 3 tracks with me, and so yeah, it was just kind of like he was kind of there in my lounge room hanging out with his sister, and I was like, oh, may as well get him on a song. But he's like, you know, it's funny the connections, 'cause, you know, he's definitely now one of my best friends and like the partner in like this, you know, this record label that we started together amongst a whole bunch of other artists. So it's it's definitely interesting.
Where did Big Village come from? Where did that accentuate from? Yeah,
well, Big Village was kind of it was a strange way that it started. It was really I don't think anyone was really like expected it or pre-planned it. It was more like it kind of was created out of a situation. Yep. So there was a bunch of artists that were working in groups, and we were kind of friends, and everyone was we'd been doing gigs together for a while. Yep. So like we'd been supporting each other at each other's gigs, and we were kind of becoming kind of friends with each other just through the music industry. So we kind of, some of us knew each other, but some of us came from different areas, and we'd just kind of, you know, start to kind of be like, oh, your band's got a good vibe. I like your band. Like we should do stuff together. And by the way, I've got this band that we do stuff together as well. So it's like, oh, well, how about the 3? And then it became kind of 4. So there was kind of like four groups that were like all kind of getting to that same sort of level at the same time, where we were like looking for a label, and we were ready to put out our album. And that was kind of where the like late 2009. So the bands were Daily Meds, which had basically just kind of started, or like a year after it just started. There was Loose Change, and we were just kind of starting and just kind of getting our first album together. And then there was True Vibe Nation, who'd been going for like a year. And then there was also like another band called Reverse Polarities. And then there was our friends from Fundamentals, which was Tucker and Jess1. And they were already signed to Obese Records, which was the biggest record label in Australia. But they were like, well, we want to be part of it anyway and to do our solo projects and that sort of thing. So we were kind of in a situation where like we were all looking for a label. And that was, I think, me and a few other people, like we had this one gig and it was just like all of us were there. And I was like, man, we're like a family anyway. And then I was like, I'd independently released my album like 2 years earlier, so I kind of knew some of the stuff. I kind of knew how it was going, but I didn't really know. I really had no idea, but I thought I knew. So I was like, let's just start our own label. You know what I mean? Like maybe one of us might get picked up by another label, but I doubt all of us will. So either we're competing against each other and we're going to wait and like, you know, or we just go it together, and we started ourselves. So that's basically how it started. And we kind of came up with the name as like in a ballot format. Like with the original kind of concept was for it to work more like a cooperative or a collective, which are two different things, but we didn't really know what they were. We didn't know what we were either. So we were kind of thinking it would be more like a co-op or a collective. And you know, that's kind of how it started. But yeah, like there was like 13 people. 13 individual artists made up from 4 groups. Yep. So,
that's an amazing story. I like that. You know,
it's a story.
It's a good story. It's a beautiful story. It's much respect actually, because I like the fact that you're like, we can either keep competing against each other, or we can just do what we love and do it together and build and grow together.
Yep.
You know, and that's the attitude that, you know, we need in the society today. And I think, you know, especially people that are creative, and, you know, people that are creative put ourselves in a very vulnerable position, always to be scrutinized. And, you know, so therefore you're always we have this persona about the other person's the competition. And, you know, they're not the competition. Yourself is the competition for growing. The other person is merely someone to help you grow, you know, and you bounce off each other.
And that's the energy that I had, because I was like, already we were kind of like going like, let's share our contacts. Like you know how to do that, I know how to do this, well, let's share. And I didn't feel like, I do, like sometimes I do feel competitive, like I have a competitive aspect of my personality, but I've got I've got a really strong like other side of my personality as well, which is just like, you know, if I like team, I just like, ooh, you're on my team. Okay, yeah, we're on team together and we're going to do it, you know. And if it's like, even they're like, I can't even see how we're going to be on the same team together, but I like kind of being on a team with people. So it's like, I think
hip-hop's all about being on teams though. Like, you think about the Rough Riders, or you think about Rockefeller, or you think about like Native Tongues, or you think about...
No, totally. There's a real sense of, what's the word, like almost...
fellowship.
Yeah, there's a fellowship, but there's almost like it's part of like the narrative of hip hop about labels and crews.
Communities and stuff
and like some of the best kind of, you know, artists have come from these crews and these labels. And I was coming from myself, I guess, being a solo artist, or up until that point, I'd kind of just gotten in a group, but I'd been like solo, kind of rapping, doing battle raps, and I was quite a serious kind of, took myself pretty seriously from like 2002, 2003 till like 2010 when the record label started. Before that time, I had live bands, I had mates, but I did feel a bit like a bit of a loner in the industry, and I felt a bit like a solo dude. So it was kind of like when the label started, it was like very different feeling for me.
For you, in a sense.
It felt very different having like so many people involved. But it was a great energy when we started, and like, you know, it's
transformed so much. Like, if you look at the guys that are on the label now, like Mathas, for example, and Omar, like it's growing into such a completely different beast at the moment. There's so much potential at the moment.
Like, I feel like it's still on this, for me anyway, in my opinion, I feel like it's definitely on the same aims that we started out with, and with the same goals and the same kind of
What were
intrinsic
those aims?
values.
What were the visions? What were the values? What are they?
It was always about like artists expressing themselves in a unique way, in an innovative way, from diverse kind of backgrounds, diverse kind of musicality, you know, keeping the kind of strain of hip hop, but like for me it was quality, diversity and innovation.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the stuff that really inspired me. And like, you know, not like, it was never like, well, we have to be conscious or we have to be this. But if you know, if something had a very negative vibe, I wouldn't really be interested, you know. And we kind of veer away from stuff that's like, you know, beyond what we feel is like, you know, positive to us.
Yeah.
But if someone came, like most of the music we've done on the label is kind of like has a bit of a positive spin. But if someone came from like a certain background and had and lived the life and was like talking about the dark stuff and like, and we thought it was like it had integrity as an artist, you know, like maybe we probably would put it out. But a lot of the music has kind of had like a conscious kind of, you know, a conscious, not like you know, old school, like, you know, put your hands in the, like, but you know, compared to some of the other Australian hip hop, I guess we kind of did like.
You want to make yours a little bit classier and
but it was also like not having our own sound. Everyone having their own, like, you know, all the different groups on the label had their own style.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to do our own thing. It wasn't like, oh, let's all come together and do the same style. It was like Loose Change was doing like this chill boom bap stuff. Like Daily Meds was doing like heavy future bass with like political raps. Then like True Vibe is doing like live, like Afro inspired, like funky kind of, you know, like soul-y kind of music, you know. And then Tucker was doing like more kind of, you know, songwriter, like kind of poetic, kind of poppy kind of, in the end, like, you know, more like melodies and choruses. And so like everyone had their own thing and no one was trying to like steal each other's style. We were all trying to like bring our own thing to the table.
Yeah.
So
I came here and joined during the whole Daily Meds, like in their prime, and I was so impressed with the label, like how they were doing, and I think that was like P. Smurf at his best as well, and Billy at her best as well. Some of the best like verses.
Yeah.
And there's like the music videos were sick as well. And I was like, oh, I need to get to this level to do music videos like that.
Yeah.
As well, because their music videos were pretty good.
Yeah, they did some great work. Yeah, I mean, my thing's always quality as well. Like that's what like gets me. It's just everything quality, and like, and you've got to, like with a record label, like you've got to have a real understanding of like of your own. I don't know what it is, because it's anything with quality is basically a personal. You know, it's a personal opinion. It's your own perspective, but you've got to just like have faith in it. You know what I mean?
In what you want.
Yeah, and in like faith in knowing that like what is like at the quality that, you know, one wants. You know what I mean? Like you can't kind of scratch your head and be like, oh, I don't know. Like, I mean, sure, if it's like a borderline thing, but like you kind of got to be able to kind of go from like just quickly, nah, that's not good enough. But also with the artists that we're working with, like, you know, and not that I had to do that on a musical sense, like for most of the artists, like I very rarely, like, you know, we very rarely kind of stepped in and like said like anything about like quality. Like everyone kind of self-regulated the music, but more is like everything else, like the way, like the kind of, you know, for me it's like the artwork, the website, the videos, you know, the press release, like the quality control on all those things. That was kind of my thing that I kind of took really serious from the absolute get-go. Every single thing that came out had to have like a certain level of quality, because the way that I feel and I think, like, you know, most people who've kind of worked in a business and have felt is like every single thing that you do is a reflection on your business and your brand.
Yep.
You know, your brand is everything. So if you don't take that seriously, you know, like if you send one press release that's got some like crappy like first line and like it's all just jolted, like whoever reads that is just gonna think, well, this brand sucks. Like, you know, so like for me it's been like a constant like thing of like just quality control. And obviously the music is number one, but as I said, like I really didn't have to do much, if any, like regulation on the music. Like maybe like there was like, but we were working together. We were regulating at that sort of stage. We were all just listening, and everyone was like, you know, like maybe you gotta like get this guy to mix it because he's really good and he did our shit, and like this guy should like, you know, get this singer because we know this singer. So we'd all kind of like work together.
You do find that like with a lot of musicians and artists that they aren't open to constructive criticism.
Oh, it's hard. Criticism's hard, and if you're going to criticize, you got to have a solution as well. So
yeah, you can't,
that's why it's like if I have to criticize someone, whether it's music or video or whatever, it's like, you know, it's like they're like, well, what are you going to do about it? How can we make it better? And then so it's like that's kind of, I'm a pretty good kind of problem solver. Yep. And kind of
I don't like it when people say I don't like this, and you go why, and you go I don't know. You know, so they've not actually got a solution to the problem. They're just literally saying their opinion. And
yeah, I'm an options guy. I'm like, okay, we don't like it. Option 1 is this. Option 2 is we do this. Option 3 is we do this. You know, there's always options. Mm-hmm. You know, so you can think of anything if you're like talking about trying to work on projects, and it's just about like trying to create different options for people, which is especially if they're kind of in control of the creative process. You know, it's like, you know, option 1 is I don't touch it. Option 2 is we work on it and I'm happy with it. Option 3 is, you know what I mean, like, but like, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's all collaboration with people. So if
I think that's very important. I mean, it's when I'm in the studio, I love my funk and soul.
Yeah.
You know, and I write all my lyrics and everything like that, and I have the sounds and the tunes and everything. I don't have that vocabulary for the music lingo or anything like that. But you know, when I'm working with my producers and things like that, I'm like, guys, this is my song. This is the sound that I want, but I want you to put your flavour to it because this is our project together, and I want you to be proud of it. And I think that's, for me, as an artist, and you know, we're talking about brand and about, you know, you're saying how it's about quality and it's a reflection of yourself. And I think it's really important as all artists, they should need to have that attitude to be, you know, working with the producers, working with, you know, your engineers together. Because yes, it's your name and you want it to be good, but you want them to want it to be good as well. And, you know.
Totally. I just the art of collaboration. I guess that's the whole thing. And with the label, every aspect of it is kind of collaboration, you know, like whether it's collaborating with people, the artists, or collaboration with like other business people, or like, you know what I mean, publicists, every single person, it's like its own little collaboration. And I don't think I've done every single one of them 100% good, like, but I've tried my best. But I think like you can learn.
Do you never look back at your earliest work and just absolutely cringe?
Yeah, I do, but I was more thinking about like the interaction and the relationships that like may not have like flourished as much as others have, you know, like you always have relationships. That's life. Yeah. So you can, I'm not trying to like say that I'm like every collaboration I had has been amazing and everyone loves me, and like that's not the case, but I have endeavored. I have endeavored to kind of collaborate on a positive way, but it's difficult. And the amount of people that I've collaborated with the record label, and the amount of projects that we've done, it's just such a massive number. Like 20 albums, you know, we've done pretty much 20 albums with all these different artists. So the amount of artists that I've dealt with is probably up to like, I don't know, I haven't even counted, probably like 40 individual artists, and then the amount of like business people and like, you know, creatives. There's probably been like 150 people that have like worked in the label, and, you know, it's quite a, you know, so out of probably all of those relationships, if there's like a couple that like haven't flourished as much as the others, then you've got to like take that on the chin.
That's life. Like I was saying before, with artists, there tends to be a lot of emotion. And
totally, it's such an emotional thing.
You need to be able to take constructive criticism and, you know, take it on the chin and think about it analytically if you want to grow in your skill set. Because if I look at the stuff that I was doing 3 years ago compared to the stuff I'm doing now, I won't be happy with the stuff I'm doing now in another 5 years. You know what I mean? Always growing, always changing, always getting better.
Yeah, no, totally. And like for us, we've kind of, I think we were good because the good thing about it was when we started the label, we were all like, we'd all been doing it for a while, you know? And so it wasn't like we started this label and we had like 3 years of putting out like trash. Like we put out, like the first stuff that we put out, like, you know, it was like the first kind of stuff that most of us had done that was on that like par level. Yeah. But like, you know, I mean, I'd put out, before the label started, I'd put out a solo album in 2008. I put out like a group album in 2006. And then I had another album that we shelved with another band, my first band in 2003. So it was like already like 3 albums worth before like we'd even started the label. And most of the other guys had done the same, RP had done like, so we were kind of there like starting the label, but it was like second releases, you know, and that was good because the first stuff people heard was like, oh, these guys are good. Whereas I've seen other people like maybe like, you know, a little bit too like early to start the label and be like, here's the label and here's our stuff, and it's like oh, you're not ready, and like now everyone's just gonna like, they heard that song and it wasn't good enough, and it's gonna be hard to kind of get past that because you're gonna have to like fight against the first impression of like these guys. So it's like, I think it was kind of good that we like, because we were quite kind of, we'd already been doing it for a while when we started the label. It wasn't like this like started from high school and we've been doing it for 10 years. Like we were all kind of like, you know, adults. Like I was 27, the average age of everyone would have been like 24, 25. So yeah, we kind of.
And what was the support from your family and friends when you said you were going to start up your own label? Was everyone on board?
Well, I mean, the thing was, all my friends were the label.
They were the label, yeah.
That's who and now I was living with them as well. So we were living, 3 of us were living together. Like, it was like, I didn't have much of a network outside of the label. And that was kind of what became difficult after a few years.
That's what I find bizarre. None of my friends like hip-hop. None of my friends like hip-hop, but all your friends like hip-hop, and you're just in that melting pot where you can actually be in the environment to create a record label around it.
Well, like I do have our friends outside of it, but it was like at that phase that became my whole world, you know, that was everything. And we were like living and working and like rapping and doing gigs and doing videos and going on tours. And it was just like, that was like the whole kind of living in a bit of a bubble, or like a rap bubble. But in terms of my family, they would like, I don't think they really understood, but they were supportive, but they were like, you should really work out what's going on with the business side of it. Like this is going to end badly if like you haven't like worked the stuff out. And I was like, whatever, we'll be fine. And like in retrospect, like in a lot of ways they were right. Like I should have worked. I mean, going back to the whole thing of starting a label, we had no idea what a record label was. I had no business experience. I did not know what a business entity was. I did not know what a business plan was. I had no understanding of basic accounting. I had no understanding of basic contracts. I was 27, but I'd studied music, Bachelor of Music. I'd been a music teacher, a rapper. I knew how to do some of the stuff in terms of, I knew how to book some gigs. I knew how to like, you know, make a CD, do a bit of promo. I knew how to do that, but I didn't understand anything about business. It was just kind of went past me, you know, I had no need, I never really felt like I wanted to run a business but like basically we got into this position where we started this thing. It was like the cart, you know what I mean, like the cart before the horse. It was like we did it and we were doing it, and it was like only like, and then as we're doing it we're like, well, we need to set this up, and how do we do this? And like that was just the business stuff. Then there's all the whole record industry stuff that we were kind of learning. So we just kind of jumped into it and like didn't know what the hell we were doing. Do you regret that making the decision, or do you feel like that was what you wanted, and you know you knew what you want, and you just did it, and life is going to give you all those lessons to learn anyway? Yeah, I mean, I don't know about regret, but I think like if I would have, the lesson that I learned is that there's a certain level of like understanding of the business that like would have saved me like years of hours going back to try and fix something that could have been fixed from the start. Yeah. You know, so in some ways, it would have been better to kind of work this, just to go like, I'm just going to do a business course straight away because this is a business and I don't know what the hell the business is, so I'm going to run a business, to learn about running a small business, and then like that would have saved me a couple of years of like,
Yeah.
you know, stress and kind of heartache and stuff. But you know, it is what it is, and like the situation is that everything would have changed if that would have happened. So you know, what happened happened. But the reality was that as we started, we were all kind of in this like kind of unknown kind of realm about like running a business together, and then the fact that there was 13 people was just like made everything hard.
That'd be really, really hard to run.
Well, that's the thing.
Like,
Most people who
everyone's
most people who start a business would never ever do that.
You just have like two.
You
other
wouldn't.
people
You
or
just have
something.
2 people in the business, 3 people in the business. But I didn't know anything about running a business, and I think like I had like a bit of a naive kind of vibe, and I was just like, well, let's just do it together. Someone will run the business. We'll be part owners. Everyone will be part owners in the business, and everyone will put in time and work for the business as well. You know, and the artists kind of own the, and it's just like that never can happen.
Yeah.
There was no way that the original kind of system of having 13 artists that don't want to run a business would ever want to kind of turn around and then start doing the work that is running the business, which takes like actually learning the skills of accounting, legal,
It's a lot of
management.
education and all that sort of
Yeah, it is. You've got to like educate yourself. So basically me, and there was about 4 or 5 of us that kind of shuffled through a few jobs, but I kind of, from the very start, I kind of put my hand up to take on a lot of the roles, partly because not many other people were into doing it, and because I felt passionately about it. So it was like, who wants to do the accounting? It's like, okay, I'll do that. Who wants to do the contracts? It's like, okay, I'll do that. And like, you know, all the shitty jobs that no one wants to do is just like ended up being on my plate.
How is it now? How's business? How is it now? You got everyone. You got all your accountants. You got everyone set up.
Now it's pure. It's all me, and like and in terms of the accounts and the management, and then Smurf runs the events.
Yeah.
So it's like we've found out the best way of like myself and Smurf working in a lot of ways is like, you know, he runs his stuff and I run the other stuff, and we like work together, but like, you know, working, you know, needing your own kind of space of how you do things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we went through a long phase from 13 to the 2 of us, which was like a lot of different phases, and a lot of the people from the record label put in a lot of their time and a lot of their energy and a lot of their heart and soul into the record label. The reality is, though, as an artist, if you're trying to be an artist and you're trying to live and you're trying to have a life, which may be, you know, family, girlfriends, you know, whatever, there's very little time after being an artist, working and having a life, and then to like run a record label. And I think like everyone who started the label would admit that like people just didn't have enough time to do that, to put in the energy that it needed to handle the kind of the amount of releases that we were doing at the time and the kind of scope of the label. And that's, you know, because there were so many artists, we were doing a lot of stuff. Now there's less of us, we can be very strategic, and we're not doing anywhere near as much as we were doing those years. So it was just like this kind of ball of energy that kind of was created, and then as it went on, people couldn't really handle like doing the work or didn't want to, like, you know, because I mean, I was taking off days of work to run, you know, the publicity, and it's like someone's got to take off this day to have this meeting, and like, you know, that's a big responsibility. So
how many people do you have on your label? How many artists do you have signed?
Well, I guess active kind of artists that are kind of currently putting stuff out, there'd be like only about like 4 or 5 of us. Yeah. But there's a few that are kind of working away.
Is there room for people to come and join Big Village, get signed by Big Village?
Little room, just a little, a sliver of room. There's always a sliver of room.
So boys and girls out there, if you do love rapping
don't
and you
say
want to
that.
work with the best, especially with some of the big, some of the pioneers of Australian
Should do like an X Factor
rapping.
TV show, the Big Village.
Yeah,
rapping
Big
TV
Village
show.
here, ladies and gentlemen. We're sitting here with the CEO having a beer. So tell me, what do you think of the industry now for hip hop? Is it growing, or is it just a steady industry in Australia? Hip hop music.
Right now It's in a really cool place at the moment. There's been a real big change in the last 2-3 years in Australian hip hop, where like it's like the unwhitening of Australian hip hop finally, after like years of like it being dominated by like, you know, purely white, kind of mostly male artists. There's a
That's
real
the main
like
thing I noticed when I came over. It's like
Yeah.
so many white dudes.
yeah, there's a
They're
real
all really
diversity now of like of hip hop in terms of sound and of like nationality background and
See a
culture.
lot
So
of
there's
female rappers now. Which
there's
is
some great rappers.
amazing.
There's TK, there's Sampler, and then there's like, you know, guys like Remy, killing it, and then there's like guys like you know, Briggs, and like, you know, so like I think in the last couple of years that's been the biggest change in terms of Australian hip hop. I mean, it kind of reached like Australian hip hop reached this kind of peak in terms of like Triple J and like being mainstream, being the mainstream sort of music, probably from, well, I don't know, 2006 to like 2000, you know, it's basically still now, but I feel like even like 2006, 7, 8, like that was when like, you know, Bliss and SO360, you know, all those kind of Hilltops, of course, all those bands kind of Draft, all those got so big, and it was like finally like hip hop was seeing its light of day. But then like after that, it was kind of like people like kind of going against them, but like, oh, I'm sick of Aussie hip hop. So like now it's kind of more like a newer wave of Australian hip hop artists, of like people kind of bringing it, and it diversifying on a mainstream level, because it's always been diverse in an underground, but like diversifying on a mainstream. So like, you know, if I bump into people and they're like, I don't like Australian hip hop because like I like, you know, US stuff, I'm like, dude, like you got no excuse in 2016. Like there's dudes doing like all sorts of stuff. Check out Barrow. Like check out like, you know, Barrow is like one of the most like skilled rappers in Australia, doing like very like, it started out, his stuff was like very like kind of Earl Sweatshirt, kind of like, you know, that sort of a vibe, like down tempo. Now he's got like his new song sounds a bit more like Chance the Rapper or whatever, and Be Wise is just amazing, and he's like, you know, there's just a lot of different stuff. It's a really thriving scene, but in terms of like the overall thing of how it works, it's still a real struggle. It's really hard to get out there. The market's so small.
What about you performing though? Other than the money side of things and making money from your sales of selling your music, is there much money in getting out there and just performing?
Well,
I'd say the majority of the money is in performing and merchandise, right?
Yeah, but if you're not at a certain size, it still costs. You know, you've got to spend money on promotion and publicity to get like seen, to do the gigs. You know, so until you get to a certain level, even live shows basically just cover your ass for the other stuff. You know, so like you can make money out of doing shows, and if you've got the right sort of fans and like that, the merch thing works. Like different types of people like have different habits with buying merch. Younger demographics, they'll buy everything, you know. But like if they're a bit older, they're like a bit more savvy now. They got like heaps of band t-shirts. They don't need many more. And it's like, you know, you've really got to.
It's funny how a t-shirt can last you 10 years, eh?
Yeah, and we still love the t-shirts, and people still buy them, and you know, we're in a really, really weird place for music right now, you know, basically the death of physical, you know, music, and like, you know, CDs will live on, I think, at a certain level where they are now. If like they'll go down, but I don't think they're going to disappear straight away, because there's still enough kind of dinosaurs that still want their CDs. The vinyls kind of like come up, but I think it's kind of plateaued. Like there's these little things, and then the digitals, like, you know, streaming's now the big thing, which doesn't really help you unless you're making a lot of sales. So for an independent artist,
it's more like a promotion thing though.
Exactly, it's more like radio. So it's a very difficult time now for artists, because you can have a reasonable sized fan base, and make very little money from everything. I do think it's a lot harder to make any sort of return now than it was like, 10 years ago. Early 2000s was like this kind of golden period for like independent music, from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s, because you had the internet to promote, but they still had to buy the CDs. So it was like this rare time, and it was cheap to make the music, relatively cheap. Before that, in the 90s, you couldn't make this stuff for cheap, and like they wouldn't hear about you. But like, so there's this time in the 90s where like late 90s and 2000 where like, people were like using the internet to promote, but then people were still going out, and artists would be selling like 20,000 CDs of an independent artist on tour. You'd go do gigs and you'd sell like 100 copies. Like now the numbers are way down, and people just don't want to buy CDs because they don't use them. They're like, we're using hardware that doesn't have a CD jack. We've got cars that don't have CD drives. We've got like, what is the point of the CD? Like, you just hold it in your hand. Like,
it's kind of just like a piece of merchandise put on your wall or something.
It is, exactly. And so that's why I say I don't think it's going to go. I think some people still like it, and still buy. I still buy CDs, and I don't have a working CD drive at home. So, like I do. I still, actually I do. I had to buy an external drive, but like it's just like, even that, it's like, you barely use CDs now. So it's definitely changed. And I think like in terms of the overall music industry, it's like, in some ways, it's, it's hard now. I guess it's always been hard. It's just the philosophy always has to be, trying to survive, trying to adapt and be like with whatever's changing and look to the future, and build an audience, and then like do whatever you can to survive around that. But like the reality is, if you can build a big enough audience, you can find ways to monetize that. But if you've got a small audience, it's really hard, if not impossible. And like, whether you put more of your energy into monetizing the small audience, or just like give up on monetizing it all and try and like keep going for a bigger audience, that's up to like, opinion right now. I don't know what's the best way, because it almost like, it almost costs more money to try and, sell music than it does to kind of put it out. But yeah.
Guys, it sounds a little bit depressing at the moment, based on what we're saying about the industry, or Joel saying about the industry, and
it's fucked. What are we gonna do, Prema?
No, listen, it sounds a little bit depressing, and it can be. And if you look in a monetary position and that, we talk a lot about rewards and everything like that on this show, and I like to discuss about how there's two type of payments you can receive. You can receive a payment monetarily, or you can receive a payment of inner success and reward and happiness, and that's by doing stuff to give. Because
just put that down on a check and give it to your landlord.
It's called cultural capital, isn't it?
Yeah, but like before the podcast, guys, I was talking to Joel, and he was telling me today he was at a jail teaching some inmates how to rap. And I just think that's, I want to talk more about that, because, I'm a massive believer of, if you give, you grow. And that's the best. If we want to talk about success, that is success. When you grow and you become a God within inside yourself, because by giving. Tell us about you going to the prison zone teaching.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess...
where this idea come from and why.
Well, I mean, firstly, I think there's an intrinsic connection between rapping and teaching. I think rapping is you kind of standing in front of people, expressing yourself, often trying to portray some sort of positive message, and connecting with an audience and connecting with other people. So there's the way I see it, like, a lot of rappers become teachers, and it's not just coincidence. It's because it's the same thing that drives you to put your pen down to paper to stand up in front of an audience as it does to stand up in front of a class of high school kids, primary school kids or whatever, and be like, I'm going to use my voice and my personality to inspire people and to connect with different people. It's a similar sort of thing. So for me, I think there's an intrinsic connection between rapping and teaching.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like teaching in jails, I mean, I've been teaching kind of hip hop to a whole range of people for the last kind of few years, 5 years. And the jail stuff has just kind of come from other work that I've done and just kind of developed. And it's not that different to all the other stuff. I mean, you know, I started out doing stuff in like the odd workshop in a high school, and then like more like primary school stuff as well, and school holiday workshops, and kind of engaging with younger kids and kids in like Indigenous communities a few times, in collaboration with Desert P Media. You know, so it's all basically just, a lot of it is sharing your passion for it.
Yep.
That's a lot of it. And I'm passionate, and that's kind of my, that's what I can just kind of let loose in that. And that's like people being, I know that like when I'm passionate and I start talking about stuff, that has a good energy on people, whether it's a little 6-year-old kid and I'm rapping to him, or it's like it's the creativity and the passion and like trying to, you know, a lot of it's just that's the kind of core of what you're kind of offering. But then it's like packaging that in certain different things.
So how did you get about to go into prison cells? And
the prison stuff kind of came about by meeting a guy who does poetry stuff in prisons, and I met him through another kind of poetry kind of company, that social enterprise kind of thing, and they do like poetry workshops, and I kind of had a meeting with them, and they were like, oh, you should meet this friend of ours, he does some work in prison. And then I met him, and then he was like, actually I've just retired, but there's this prison that I'd really like to kind of get you to meet. So he kind of like middleman between me and this prison, and first we did like a workshop, and then later on then the prison
sorry to interrupt, when they approached you or that, did you have any queries or anything like that? Were you excited about going to this prison, or were you a bit anxious?
What kind of criminals
or
are they?
Hasty? Or
like what level of...
Yeah, all minimum security guys, yeah.
Security, yeah.
I was nervous. The first time he kind of asked me, he was like, you got to go in, we're going to get you in and you're going to meet him and you're just going to do a freestyle for the whole prison. Just like rap for everyone. It's like 8:30 in the morning. And so they walked me into the prison, and like, it's their like weekly meeting. So there was a very small prison, so there were like 40 people and like 20 guards, and they're on a big circle. And they're like, this is happening on Wednesday, you're gonna do this and this and this. And now we got Joel, who's doing some workshops in a couple of weeks. He's gonna do a rap for you guys. So welcome, Joel. And I'm just like there, like 8:30 in the morning with like a whole like prison around me, and I was just like. I think I was driving to the prison. I was nervous. I was nervous about the rap. I remember driving in, and just like thinking in my head, I was like, you know, like doubting myself, going like, do I even know how to rap? Like, I'm driving to a prison. I'm gonna rap to this. Like, I can't. Am I actually good at rapping or not? I don't know. I don't think I am.
How long ago was this?
This was only like a year ago, like a year and a half ago. Yeah, it would have been about a year ago. But like I've done a lot of education before then, but this was the first time in the jail. And they kind of introduced me, and then I was like, so I did like a topic freestyle. So I got words off the guys. I was like, okay, I'll get a few words off them. And one of them was like jailbreak, and I was like, oh, a rap about breaking out of jail, okay. But I did like my little freestyle, and like, you know, I was like, okay, cool. And then afterwards, like, they just kind of all like, heaps of them like came over, and I was like, oh, that was awesome, like, thanks so much for coming in. And I was just like, whoa, cool. And it was like these big big burly dudes with tats going, like they'd seen a rap that I'd done and I did like one line about like being Jewish. Like I did really, it was like just a glance, but that was the thing that they cottoned on to. So like they'll be coming out, oh, you're that Jew rapper. Yeah, you're cool, mate. Yeah, you're cool with us. I was just like, whoa, this is bizarre. But I think like, you know, once I kind of broke the ice with rapping, like, and that's the thing about like me being a teacher and a rapper, is as soon as I can rap to people, it kind of breaks the facade. And like, you know, even today I was doing a class and I'm like, okay, so we're doing this is the assessment, and then you got this assessment, and then like, okay, I got to teach you about similes and metaphors, and you know, I'm teacher.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, let's do a jam, and like start rapping, and then we're rapping, and I'm just like rapping, I'm just like in my little zone, and I'm getting it known, and it's just like, and as soon as I start rapping, I'm like, you know, I'm like a 16-year-old again, you know, I'm just like a kid rapping, and it's kind of like, it's kind of scary that you can like lose everything and you just be like kind of creative kind of person, but it's also awesome for them. And like I felt like after I did the rap, I fully connected with a couple of them that I hadn't connected with much during the rest of the day. And I was like, we were just like rapping bar for bar, and it was like, before it was like, I'm teacher, you're student, you know what I mean? You know, he's an inmate and I'm like a come in and I teach him stuff. Well, then we're just freestyling together, and it's just like, it means you can just connect to someone in a really pure way that is absolutely beautiful and like magical in a way, you know?
I think the creative industry is something amazing for teachers to be able to inspire people. It really teaches confidence, and the confidence is so important. And you know, because especially if you are on the wrong side of the law, your confidence is based upon negativity. You know, and you know, we were doing an interview once before, some guy, and he said when he was at school, he was always told he was dumb and stupid like that, and so he was always forever in trouble because he was constantly getting told that, you know.
I had that line with a guy today when we were writing a rap, and it was like, what was the line? It was like, they used to tell me I was slow. They used to tell me that I was too slow. You know, he's like 50-year-old dude, but he can't write very well. He can't read very well, and we're just like coming up with lines, and it was just like, you know, like you're totally right. The confidence is so like gone from these guys. You know, like they feel like nothing they've done is good. They're in the shittiest situation you can, you know, pretty much be in, apart from dead. You know, like you're locked up, and sometimes just writing a few bars and like, I mean, like, that's a cool line. Yeah, that's cool. Like, we're working together, we're doing the song. Like, they're like, you know, I have guys coming up to me going like, whoa, that, like, I felt like, I didn't feel like I was in prison. It was like the first time I have felt free in like months. You know what I mean? Like, music has a powerful effect. A powerful effect. Like, I'm going in as a music teacher. I'm employed through TAFE. But I think it would be like, it would be just as like viable for like a prison to pay for like music programs as therapy. Being through a TAFE thing is kind of like, it's like getting in through the back door. It's like I'm doing like therapy through the back door. I'm doing therapy by doing you know, because I'm teaching them songwriting, and they're like, first thing they write about, like, you know, I wish I changed, I wish I wasn't here. And it's like, that's the therapy class, you know? They're writing more stuff in there.
Well,
they're writing more stuff
therapy,
that the other, it is, exactly. So they're writing more stuff about that than they're probably doing with their therapist. And I'm not even a professional therapist, I'm just there as a music teacher. But that's the power of music, you know, so.
Well, that's, you know, music is what feelings sound like.
Exactly.
And we are just an emotional vessel, an emotional muscle.
We're monkeys.
And I think in the long run, I think hopefully people will start to get that, and they'll get arts programs and creative programs as the programs that fit in with the change, not as like some like course that someone can do if they want to learn, you know, a skill. It shouldn't be a TAFE course. It should be part of their, you know, and this is happening in America. It's really big in America. I'm really going to want to try and learn more about what's happening over there, because there's a lot of hip-hop stuff happening there. But
could you see yourself maybe starting a side business with your label, perhaps just bringing, you know,
I did start a different business label called School of Rap,
Yeah.
which is like the education stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
So so that's what I started like 2 years ago, and that's basically, you know, I call it a social enterprise because it does have like, you know, a social kind of conscience to the overall nature of the work. But yeah, it's so that's what I've started as a kind of umbrella to do all my workshops and all the work that I do in like communities and schools and stuff.
Yeah.
But with the jails, I'm going in now employed through TAFE New South Wales.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of part of my learning as like this overall thing of me actually taking seriously that, yeah, I'm a rapper and I'm a record label manager, but I'm also like an educator.
Yeah.
You know, in
Knowing
that I
this
teach,
is
I can teach whatever I do. I love to teach. I love teaching this, teaching that, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to teach a kid guitar student I had how to tie his shoelace. You know, one day I was like, this is out of my jurisdiction. And to be honest, I failed. It's really hard to teach someone how to tie a shoelace. But I was just like, I'll give it a go. Come on, you got your shoe, let's go. You know, I love teaching stuff, you know, no matter what it is. I'm just like, I get a kick out of trying to teach stuff. So,
Look, they say once the teacher, always a student, right? And do you find that within yourself that, you know?
Oh
you're always,
man,
yeah.
I'm learning all the time,
Yeah.
totally. And like the other thing is like, I heard the other week, it was like, if you can't explain something at its most basic form, then you don't understand it well enough.
Yeah.
I think that was an Einstein quote or something.
Yeah.
But it was like I've gotten to the point now where I have to like explain rapping to people that have never touched raps and never like don't understand raps and are really scared of learning anything. And I have to do it simply in like 5 minutes before they get bored.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've got like method of being like, this is rapping. It's like so simple that if like someone was a rapper like who didn't understand like teaching, it would just be like, oh, you're just dumbing the hell out of it. And it's like, it is dumbing it down, but once you can understand it at its purest form, then like it kind of works for me as well. When I like, you know, do my writing, you know, and yeah, you're constantly learning. I did a course last semester at TAFE for which was about lyric writing, and so it was about like all these different styles of lyric writing, so songwriting, AABA form, like old school musicals, like pop song, like all like these other styles of music writing. And I was like learning on like, so there's all these like rules of writing. I'm like, ooh, I didn't do that on my last song, I didn't do that, like I'm just like,
It's interesting, isn't it?
getting schooled. I'm like, damn, like I learned so much doing that. And like yeah, it was really good to kind of do that sort of stuff, and you know, be constantly learning. You've got to be constantly learning. I think if you're a good artist and you take your art form seriously, you're constantly learning.
That's the problem with some people. They think that they're the finished products already. Like people look at themselves as the finished products right now, and that they can't learn anything and they can't improve. But I think that says a lot about your personality and where you're going to go in life, because the ones who know that they can improve are the ones that will improve and have room to add to their repertoire, and that is why they grow.
Attitude is so important, isn't it? I mean, attitude is more important than anything.
What's the plan of attack for the future? What's Big Village going to be doing? Where do you want it to be?
Well, they got Mathas on the scene, which is a big
Spokesman.
No,
right here.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Mathas is, if you're talking about quality, I'd give him 9.5 out of 10. Only because I never give a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's why he knows quality. Quality people don't give 10 out of 10 because then there's no room to improve.
9.5 out of 10 because there's always room to improve.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. That Stone Cold Sober track plus music video was just like, that was amazing. 10 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. And then you got Omar on board.
Yeah, so we've got a few new artists. So as you know, some of the artists that we were working with initially that grew out of the label have kind of stopped working. You know, some have moved on with like families, and other people are kind of just working in other creative stuff. So Daily Meds, Reverse Polarities are no longer working together. And then, you know, some of the other artists like Tucker and Jess One are now like, you know, focusing all their stuff on Fundamentals, which is on Universal, and doing all their own thing, which is awesome, and we're really proud of their stuff. But at the moment we've got like this guy Omar Musa, who's a guy from Canberra, an amazing poet and a rapper and an author, and he put out a book last year that was a novel, actually 2 years ago, Here Come the Dogs, that was like widely critically acclaimed, and like it's amazing. It's an amazing novel, released through Penguin, published through Penguin, released published through Penguin.
Q&A, the TV show.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Q&A and stuff.
Published by Penguin, isn't it?
Yeah, it was nominated for the long list for the Miles Franklin.
Oh wow!
So he's an amazing.
And he's on your record.
Yeah, he's on our label. So we
wow.
released his EP last month.
Yeah.
Omar Musa. And Mathas, who we put out last year, is a guy from Perth. So that was like the last two artists that we've signed have been from outside of Sydney. So one from Perth, one from Canberra, and I think both of them really go down to the core of what it was that drove us when we started. It was the originality. It was the kind of talking about stuff from a conscious kind of perspective, and it was with quality and innovative kind of style of music. So it's all like the stuff that we started with, even though they're new artists. But the next kind of phase of the label is really exciting, because the artists that we started with, we're kind of coming back, and we're about to start putting out the releases that we've been working on for a few years. So next year's going to be really, I think, exciting. So I've got my album that I'm going to release, and then Smurf, I think, we'll be working on an album.
When will you be looking at releasing your album?
March, hopefully March.
March next year?
Yeah.
And
so
have you got anything coming out this year? Any singles or anything
Yeah,
like that?
I got a single that should come out in 2 weeks. So
In 2 weeks? What's your single called?
What I Got.
Yeah, tell me about it.
By the time this podcast comes out, it should be the same week.
Yeah.
So tell us
So
about
the single is a bit of like a journey, into talking about being satisfied with what you have.
Yep.
I always, and the whole album for me is like a bit of a journey into my own brain. It's me dealing with a lot of the stuff you're talking about: self-love, self-appreciation, self-confidence. I've got a lot of self-doubt, even though where I am and what I've done, I have I have a constant battle with confidence, and with in certain aspects, not in every aspect, but in some aspects, in terms of music and in terms of aspects of life, and a lot of the album is that whole conversation between me and my my demons, and that voice in your head that's telling you can't do that, you're not good enough to do that, you'll never make it, you're just a failure.
Do you think you just have that voice because you are an overachiever? Do you find yourself a bit of an overachiever?
No, I don't know. I think it's
I think everyone has that voice.
Everyone has that voice. It's a matter of how you deal with it. But I definitely, I don't know why. I feel it's definitely been really strong with me, and it's been part of the reason why earlier on in my career I didn't do the sort of things that I could have. I didn't put myself out there like I maybe should have when I was 20, 23, 24. Yep. When I was some of the artists that I was with did, and they kind of focused in on a way that kind of helped their careers. So there's been a lack of confidence that has manifested itself in decisions that I've made that have then been part of the fact that things didn't work out for me as a solo artist that maybe they could have. So it's it's a part of who I am that kind of made where it's got me now. But I mean I've found just writing this album has been a really good way to kind of deal with it and just put them on paper, and then it's okay, well that's that thought. I've written a song about it, I can deal with it, as soon as it's on paper, it's really it's a really good place, it's a good way to kind of deal with the stuff.
Do you suffer from depression or anxiety, anything like that, or do you just...
Definitely anxiety and stress. Most of it's self-induced. Because of my kind of the stuff I take on and my kind of frenetic energy. I don't think I have depression, but definitely I get down sometimes. But that's different. But I definitely get anxious, and I'm trying to deal with that. Music's good. I'm doing a bit of exercise is good, and But I think I'm trying to deal with it more because like anxiety is I have a lot on my kind of like, you know, plate with with the label and with teaching and stuff, and I can find my way through like, you know, the weeks and the months and the years and kind of get it all done. But I think it is having like an effect. It's taking its toll, you know, like feeling that stress kind of on me. Yeah. And like that's kind of what I've been trying to kind of work on for a while.
I think, I mean, it's very much respect that you are openly happy to tell us, you know, that I think you've just got a lot on your plate. And just give yourself a lot of credit too. You've got a lot on your plate. You're running a very successful business.
Yeah, it's self-imposed. It's not like some sort of anxiety, different
exactly.
sort of...
So, you know, yours is essentially the fact that, you know, you have got so much on your plate and you do want to get all this done, and you owe yourself and you're obliged to yourself to do that. So you're pressuring yourself, and you've had to go through the, you know, the woodwork and every nook and cranny to make your business where it is. And, you know, we're discussing before how you say that there's no money in the music industry or anything like that. And, you know, in a business sense, maybe business might be as financial as big as like Universal or something like that. But you have got a very respectable brand and a very respectable company. And much respect to you from me, from sitting beside the table.
No, for sure. I mean, I feel so proud of what we've done. So proud of all the relationships that from all the guys that we started out with and girls, and the kind of the way that it's kind of expanded and like developed, and you know, the unit that we've got, like it's really held together through like, you know, a real kind of core like group of people. It's not just me as well. There's obviously Smurf, who's the business partner, but then also you know, the guy that does all the design and all the stuff called Dean, number 19, and he's
on our logo, by the way.
Yeah,
he's on our Fresh Bits of
I think you've got
logo.
yourself a fan.
Yeah, we've got a spokesman. But no, number 19 is really, he's part of the label. He's,
what did
you know,
you say,
he's
Alex?
the label.
He's what?
He's doing the logo.
Oh, okay, he's doing the logo.
Yeah, he's doing your logo.
beautiful.
Shout out to Dean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so shout out to Dean for number
Dean,
19.
Mate, the logo's fantastic, dude. And look, I'm also going to get you to do some more work for me, because I need a new logo done for...
Yeah, well, he's really like, you know, when you talk about the record label, like I can't talk about it without mentioning those sorts of people. And there's you know, another friend of mine called Katie, who's kind of mentored me through a lot of the business kind of dealings. And then there's another friend called Alex, who works with us on like publicity and like other kind of just general like record label kind of work. And so
He does music videos.
and you know, and this guy Alex, who like makes all the beautiful videos that makes us look great. So it is a team thing, and like that's how it is when you're doing these sorts of creative projects. You can't do it yourself. It's never about like trying to do it yourself. It's about building a team of like-minded individuals, and then like, you know, enjoying the successes and like having a positive outlook in the failures, I guess.
I was on Instagram the other day, and I saw this documentary which I'm very keen to watch, and it was about billions of years ago the aliens come to Earth, and they wanted to be able to give their knowledge. And so what they did, they looked at all the animals that are alive on Earth, and they wanted to be able to have a look at what animal that they could give their knowledge to, and it passed through.
Right.
And they passed it through to the monkey. And Alex is a true believer of being a monkey. However, this documentary looks amazing. I'm looking forward to watching it and talking about it, actually, because it's just interesting to see what they say. But they reckon that these aliens flew to Africa.
Was this the History Channel?
No, it was on.
I thought this was a metaphor that you were embarking upon.
No.
It's one of your crazy things.
No, not one of my crazy things. It's just something I saw on Instagram. And for all the viewers out there that haven't watched a previous podcast, I'm a massive believer in aliens, extraterrestrial life.
No, but I am as well, but in a more scientific way.
He's more in a grumpy way. I'm in a more like rainbows and butterflies and unicorn style. More like ayahuasca kind of style. Talking about ayahuasca, have any desire to try ayahuasca, Paul?
Oh,
I think I just called you Paul. I meant to say Joel.
ayahuasca. Ayahuasca.
DMT.
It's different to DMT. I think.
It's a DMT boo, right?
I've tried to tell
Got a
him it's
little
different to
blue,
DMT.
No, it's a
but-
different drug
yeah.
to DMT.
Yeah.
As far I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's a different drug to
Can you
DMT.
just find out, please?
Find that out for us, Christian.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what is ayahuasca?
My friend actually, who used to rap with us, runs like ayahuasca retreats in South America. He's a rapper from Brisbane. So, yeah, if you're keen, if you go to South
wanna-
America. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of scared of it. Like it was kind of like I've heard a lot of stories about like.
Meeting
Yeah,
Jamaica.
I just think of nudity and vomiting. That's kind of like the two things I think of when I think of ayahuasca.
Like nudity as in nude women?
Like
and you
people,
vomiting?
no, like stories of people like just like finding themselves in like the forest, like naked, like throwing up.
It's supposed to only last like 15 minutes though.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like,
Sometimes
So
it
you
lasts
go
for like a week.
deep.
Yeah,
You
for a
do
week.
go. I've heard that like people they go deep and they find, they find some like dark places, but and like go through like what it is that they're dealing with and try and like battle the demons.
AYAHUASCA.
Meanwhile,
Ayahuasca.
I think I would do it if it was
you had some doctors around you or something like that?
Well, I mean, if it was like in the right sort of thing with like a ritual and I was in the right like place, I think I'd give it a crack.
Rituals and that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My friend actually does them now.
Yeah.
He does the ritual
Does the
stuff.
rituals as well, and he's from Brisbane.
He's from Brisbane now. He lives in South America,
Yeah.
and he runs like he runs the whole kind of his whole life is like he's kind of become a shaman and like he's like become this whole spiritual dude. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I was around, maybe I'd give it a go. But it's not like I'm not like hanging out to.
They reckon
Not
that
hanging out to
you
do
do
it.
it when you're ready.
Yeah,
you do it only when you're
It's
ready.
the
Yeah,
only
it's-
drug I want to try.
it's not meant to be enjoyable. It's like it's not a bad thing. Like like it's probably like it's not necessarily an enjoyable like experience,
It's
but
supposed to be
it's
like a mind
an interesting.
opening,
Yeah,
realization
so it's like
of everything.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, sure. Where is it?
What's your next question, Alex?
Well, an experimental drug called, I can't say this, but I'm going to give it a go, aducanumab that's what it's called, has shattered and removed toxic plaques in the brain of some test patients with early stage Alzheimer's. So what this means is that we might be on course to finding the cure to Alzheimer's.
Yeah. I think that's really good. So, what did you say again?
Yeah, you would not want to be the guinea pig for that study, would you?
Yeah.
It's like a drug, like eating parts of like your brain, like that's a.
Well, that's the thing. Like they test it on animals first.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, all medicine has to be, developed some way.
Well, I mean, if you've got Alzheimer's and you were offered to be in this test,
Sure.
Sound like
You
you're gonna
know.
remember.
Yeah, no, it's a hard one.
You can't.
And if you
can't
do,
lose.
you know it's
I
worked.
mean, you can't. You can only win because you're losing
Yeah.
it anyway.
No, well, specifically about that, I mean, like, it's kind of like, it's one of those, like, kind of core fears, isn't it, of, like, losing your mental ability. It's almost worse than, like, losing your physical ability, like, that'd be such a difficult thing to be in there, if you had Alzheimer's and you, like, couldn't remember and like, oh, that's,
Well, let me just explain to the listeners and the viewers what Alzheimer's actually is. It is like in our brains we have neurons that fire electrical impulses, and that is the way that your brain communicates with itself. It creates memories and it creates thoughts that way. And you have synapses in your brain which transmit between neurons, so they are basically gaps. And then the way that they transmit signals is through chemical reactions. But when these synapses become clogged up with plaque, and let me just check my notes. Alzheimer's forces beta amyloid, which is a protein, to clump together and then clog those synapses. It stops these messages getting transmitted between the synapses.
So it's pretty much like this, and they'd go like this, and you're connected. What actually happens is the cells close over, and they can't come together, so they just bounce off each other.
The gap between the synapses becomes clogged, and then
there's no information coming through.
No information going through, and the plaque builds up, and
so this drug is designed to
and clears the plaque.
Clears the plaque. Yeah. So it's like Drano.
Drano for your braino.
Nice. That could be the new thing.
Drano
Well, it wouldn't kind of work because it's called if you can find a rhyme for this, aducanumab.
Shooba-dooba-doo-ba-ba.
Shooba-dooba-doo-bap. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, you might go from hip hop to oh God, do shake pineapple, shake that tree. All right.
What is it again? Aducanumab.
I only wanted to say this once tonight. I didn't expect to say it aducanumab.
Dude, you can't bring out a word like that and expect it only to say it once.
Aducanumab.
Can you just let him have a look at it? Because he might even say
I need the new drug. They call it aducanumab. Aducanumab. I think if we be chilling, then I need a new rug. I've lost my memory. I need some.
Aducanumab.
I need some new. I need some new
aducanumab.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is no reflection on what the man can do. Okay, just bear in mind that. What's something that really frustrates you in life, mate, other than in the music industry, just in general life? What's something just gives you...
Just the fact that things take so long and there's just not enough hours in the day, having to I mean, I try and and I am pretty I try and make the most out of the menial tasks of washing up and hanging up the washing and driving here and there, but I guess I'm mostly frustrated by not being able to do as much as I want to do. And
how much better would it be?
Time, or is that just because
time is just your own kind of choice of what you do with your time. But
how much better would it be if we didn't have to sleep? Let's think about it. Why
sleep's the best though, isn't it?
Yeah, but why do we sleep at all? The reason why
we need sleep.
Yeah, but why do we need sleep?
Because otherwise we die. Our body needs time to recuperate.
But why? Let's draw it back a little bit. The reason why we die if we do not sleep is because we've got that through evolution, right? And the reason why we've got that through evolution is because when it went dark, we used to have to hide in caves.
Nah. You need time. All animals need time.
Nah.
Not every animal has to sleep.
Animals sleep even when there's not light and dark.
Animal.
What animal?
Christian, type in what animal doesn't have to sleep.
Not every animal, but most animals don't think as much as a human.
Everything is run on energy. So when you've got no energy,
I think
you need to rest.
one of the sea creatures doesn't have to sleep.
Yeah, but they're not thinking and being creative. I don't
think he's got a brain or a backbone or a heart.
But you could have all the time in the world and you still wouldn't be able to do everything if you wanted to. I mean, I think I get frustrated by time, but it's also myself, you got to manage your own time, and that's a ongoing, it's a work in progress for myself, managing time. But I think that's what I'm frustrated by. It's always I wanted to do so many things and I didn't get time to do it, and I take on more jobs than I can than I can get done in one day. So it's that's kind of what frustrates me, which is basically being frustrated by myself. So
ladies and gentlemen, it is the own worst enemy, and I think that's something that you have to also ask yourself that too. What is it that frustrates you, and then why do you feel that way? And a lot of times you find the answer is really within yourself. It's the way your thinking pattern works. It's the way you execute your actions. It's about being your own worst enemy. It's about self-deprivating yourself, depriving yourself of being happy, or depriving yourself of time to just enjoy your life. You know, today, yesterday, I was talking to this lady, and she was talking about how she's got so much work to do, and you know, she's got so much work piled up on top, and she's like, I'm like, well, you know, you need to start disciplining yourself to have some fun. And she's like, what do you mean I'm disciplined? I'm disciplining myself to get all this work done. And I said, she's like, yeah, but I said, have you been going to the gym? She's like, no, I haven't been going to the gym. She's like, I love that. And I said, do you love going to the gym? She's like, yeah, but I haven't got time. I said, no, you're making a conscious action. It's not that you don't have time. She's like, I said, what you're doing is you're not disciplining yourself to work is not important. The work is there, and it's always going to be there, and you can only do so much of that work. So your discipline is that you also got to discipline yourself to have fun. You've also got to discipline yourself to live your life and reward yourself by doing the things that you enjoy. You know, it's not, you know, we seem to think that discipline is about doing the work that so we can have free time, but your discipline is also about enjoying your life too. On another note, I'm going to talk about something that happened tonight. I went out for dinner tonight, and I went to an Indian restaurant just up the road, and talk about frustration. One of the biggest things that frustrates me is I hate lack of customer service. It really gets under my skin, because being in the industry of hospitality for most of my life, ran many businesses, own my own businesses, and customer service. I'm all about making sure a customer feels valued and cared and everything like that. Anyway, so I'm always about customer service. I walked into this restaurant tonight, walked up the stairs, and these people just looked at me, and I was like, "Hey," and one girl just turned her back and walked to the bar. The other guy just looked at me, and this lady coming from the counter, she's like, table for one? I said, yeah, just have a table for one. She's like, just sit over there. And I was like, fuck. And I was craving Indian food. So, straight away I was like, fuck you guys. I'm not going to fucking eat in your restaurant. Like, my attitude was like, fuck you guys, straight up, But the other side was like, no, I wanted Indian food. I didn't come for the service. I want a good dinner, right? So I sat myself down, and while I'm sitting myself down, I'm no one come over to me. I poured my own water, and I was looking at the menu, and I'm on my phone, and I'm just waiting, and I hate waving people down. There's nothing worse when you're being on the opposite foot and you're doing something and a customer waves you down, right? So I hate being that guy, but tonight I had to be that guy, and I had to wave this person down. Just come over and said, can I just have my order taken? She's like, you ready to order? I'm like, yeah. And she just turned around to the bar, and then this other guy walked past. I said, hey mate, just ready to order? He's like, you ready to order? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to order. I'm getting pissed off at this stage, right? And anyway, then this Indian lady comes over and she goes, what would you like to order? And I said, I would like to order this and that. Anyway, she takes my order, and I just felt really angry.
Yeah.
I felt really angry about how this whole situation was. And I'm going to brush it up a bit here. And the concept was that I was pissed off about, because I always talk about don't let someone else's negativity be a reflection of you or your happiness or your character. Because when you do that, you would demean it to the level of where you don't want to be, of your standards. And then whatever that level is will beat you at that game. So I was like, I'm not going to drop down to that level and be angry and bitter and all that. I eat my meal. And I thought, no, this is really pissed me off. And I just thought I'd be rude back, But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to engage these people. So just like this girl come over and she asked me how my meal was. I said, look, it's fantastic. I said, have you tried this dish before? And she started talking. She's like, no. It's like, it's really, really good. You should try it. And she walked off, and as she was walking to another customer, I just said, so how's your day been? And she's like, yeah, good. And then she started a bit more interacting, and then the guy come past and he poured my water. He's like, how's your meal? I'm like, man, it's really, really, really good. I'm loving it. you guys are having a bit of a quiet night. How's your day been? And he's like, yeah, it's been quiet tonight. Not much happening. Yeah, my day's been all right. I'm like, what are your plans for the weekend, man? I'm like, what are you going to do this weekend? You got the weekend off? He's like, yeah, I got the weekend off. And I started engaging a conversation with her. And then when the owner saw that I was engaging in conversations with both the staff members, then she come out, she's like, oh, how's your meal? I'm like, this goat curry, it's fantastic. I said, you must tell your chefs that they're doing an amazing job, because this is fantastic, exactly what I needed. You know, and when it come to me paying the bill, I walked up to the counter and was like, hey, I gave the girl a high five. She high fived me back. The guy is like, I'll see you next time. And the lady's, you know, she turned around, she's like, oh, thank you for coming, rah, rah, rah. And I walked down the stairs, and I walked down the stairs completely the opposite to how I was walking up the stairs when I had my first interaction. And I guess the, you know, I don't know if I can make an analogy or if that is the analogy, but the concept of this story is sometimes it's not about them. If their service or how they are, that's their issue, right? But if you're going to invest in that, then it becomes all about you. So if I was going to allow that to affect me, then it's not about what they're doing. It's all about what I'm doing to myself, how I'm allowing them to affect me. See, I'm not being the solution to the problem. I'm being the problem within the problem. So I got to be smarter and rise above that. I've got to be like, all right, there's not even a problem there. There's not even a problem for a solution. I don't require that over there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm having a good time, and I'm going to rise above it and make them come to my level. I'm not going to stoop down to their level.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, and I think like everyone can relate to that in so many aspects of their life, and to be able to do that, to be able to kind of go through that and like be dealt with like bad, you know, this bad thing, but you like turned it out just by being positive, and then like intrinsically most people are like in like good natured, you know what I mean? Their intention wasn't like this. It's just people get in the monotony of life, and you like by you managing to kind of break the kind of just like frustrated bullshit and just be like, no, I'm gonna be pumped, I'm gonna be happy, I'm gonna say what up, they're gonna get these guys. It's like if everyone could like live like that,
well, the problem is
you know?
it becomes like a vacuum. So that place becomes a vacuum because the staff have their attitude, and then the people come in and they will react from that attitude and have their same attitude.
Yeah,
themselves,
it's a bad cycle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I guess the concept of that story is, guys, don't let your environment be in control of how beautiful you are. You know, you are beautiful for a pure reason. That's because you are there on this earth, and don't let your environment be what's in here. Be what's in here, out here.
I think that's mad little anecdote.
Guys, I just we're going to wrap it up tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Joel on our show. Actually, I just want to quickly say this meme that I read, and I didn't really understand it too much until I met you. So I'm going to make sure that just make sure we can. Hopefully, I can do this in one take.
Okay.
This meme that I read, it said, raise your words, not your voice, because it's the rain that makes the plants grow, not thunder. And I love that. When I read it, I loved it. I didn't quite understand how I can use that meme or quote in a physical term. And until I met Joel tonight and listened to his story. And Joel's a pure indication of what that statement is and what that statement represents. And it's about, I take that context into that he has something that he really loves that's can become something that's of competition, which can become something that will segregate you. But it's actually the concept of it is in a hip-hop genre of music is to bring people together. And he took the true essence of that, bring it together instead of segregating. And he built an empire and a foundation, and built his life and built many other people's lives, and many other people have been affected by this man for what his beliefs are. And that is being the rain on the flowers instead of being the thunder to grow that. Because it's a kind of the concept is that That's just where we're at.
Always, thanks for having me. Thanks
dude.
well.
Thanks for coming on. Boys and girls, that is the Fresh Prince of Tasmania. I hope you guys enjoyed our podcast, talk show. Guys, remember, if you do want any positive feedback, please don't hesitate to jump onto our Fresh Prince of Tasmania @gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Love to hear from you. Love to have you on this show. Always a pleasure to have Alex on here. Always a pleasure to have Kristen in the background there. And ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, before we go, was there any animals from your research that don't sleep?
There's the bullfrog, there's the dolphin, which only half sleeps because it can shut up half of its brain, and then the third one is bees.
The most important animals of them all.
Okay, so just before we wrap that up, you said the dolphin.
Dolphins.
Dolphin.
The next most intelligent animals to us.
And monkey.
No, I think dolphins are more intelligent than monkeys.
Oh, maybe I must be in a dolphin. He said half, so it's still half sleeping. Doesn't mean it means you're either half awake. It's 50-50. It's like
half
sleep,
Not quite sleeping. It's
And
not over
what?
the
A
finish line.
bees don't sleep.
If all the bees, if all
They
the
don't need sleep,
bees,
but do they sleep?
no, if there were no bees,
Hang on, ladies and gentlemen.
listen, if there were no bees, if the bees died today, Earth would be fucked.
I agree with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We love you. Alex loves you. Joel, fantastic
I love
having
you.
He's got a new single coming out this month. What is it?
What I got.
What I Got. When's it released?
It'll be released in September.
In September.
This
Keeping
month.
the hush hush. Either way, we're going to have a link on our profile page. So jump up what this man does and all his clan. It's amazing. Absolute pleasure. Peace out. Thanks, guys.